What up, guys? Carolina Jackpot coming at you. It's Wednesday evening, November 21st, 2018, and it is Rivalry Week. And as promised, I have every game on the card, save two, that I'm going to do picks and predictions on. We're going to divide it up. We're going to have two parts here. This is a lot of games to do. We got 33 to cover on this docket. It'll be 29 to cover on the next one. So buckle your seatbelts and let's go. The two games from last night. I did not get on here. It's a little bit of action going on last night. Just wasn't able to get video going in time to do those, so my apologies. But we do have everything else listed. So we're going to do these first 33 games in this video, and then the next one we'll do the remaining 29 games that are left over. Let's get right into it. Colorado State going on the road to Air Force. The Air Force, the cadets, are laying 14.5 at home against Colorado State. Neither team exactly has a great record here. Colorado State actually won a game against Arkansas earlier in the season. Got blown out at Florida. Air Force, not exactly a great record, but they have some close wins against some pretty decent, or close losses, against some pretty decent competition. They did beat Navy handily earlier in the season. Lost to Army, though. I'm going to go on ahead and take the Falcons to cover the spread in this one. I think Colorado State's just not a very good team, and I expect Air Force to get an easy victory here. Mississippi State on the road at Ole Miss, the Egg Bowl. This is Thursday night. I think the line on this one's actually gotten a little larger right now. The Bulldogs laying 11 on the highway in this one. And, you know, you're looking at a Mississippi State team that's been a little bit resurgent here at the end of the year. They picked up a few wins. We beat Texas A&M, one you really didn't expect to see happen. Played Alabama, a pretty decent, gave Alabama a pretty decent game for 3 or 4 quarters there. Just not able to really get anything going offensively, but they still got their licks in. It's a tough team. Got a really good front four. They're still ranked. I think they're like number 17 or so this week. And Ole Miss has not looked good. They haven't won a game since early in October, and I don't expect that to happen here tonight. They actually won the Egg Bowl last year in an upset, and Nick Fitzgerald went out there with injury. But I'm going to take the road team here, the Bulldogs. Give me them. Don't need 11 points. Take Mississippi State in this one. Arkansas on the road at Missouri. This is a Friday game. 22.5 points. The Tigers laying at home against the Arkansas Razorbacks. I had started to believe a little bit in Arkansas. Had a loss to LSU that was pretty close. It was like a 21-14 game, 28-21 game, something like that. They played a close game against Texas A&M. Thought they were kind of turning the corner. And I actually picked them to cover the spread last week, and they played Mississippi State and absolutely got blown out of the water. Missouri, on the other hand, is coming off a 50-17 shellacking of the Tennessee Vols in Knoxville last Saturday afternoon. And I'm going to go with the home team here in Missouri. They're hot right now, and I think Arkansas still got some work to do there before they're going to become competitive in the SEC West under Chad Morris. I think they have the ability to do it, but it's just going to take a while. Coastal Carolina at South Alabama. Coastal Carolina laying 2 on the road. Got the ability to score some points there. Just Coastal Carolina, neither team with exactly a stellar record. South Alabama's given up a lot of points this year. So that being said, I'm going to take the Chanticleers in this one. Do a whole lot of research on that one. Don't know a whole lot about either team, but I think Coastal Carolina will take care of business against them. Houston on the road at Memphis. This should be a good game. The Memphis Tigers laying 7 at home against Houston. Looked dominant on defense earlier in the year. Ed Oliver, the potential first-round draft pick. First of all, he's going to be a first-round draft pick, like the first 3 draft pick for the Cougars on that defensive line. He's been out injured for a while now. Still, we're coming out of 8-3 record. They go into Memphis 7-point underdogs. I like the Cougars here in this spot. I don't know that they'll necessarily win this game. I think this one's going to be really close, and I think it could be a shootout. Both teams I've watched somewhat on Thursday nights, and both look good offensively, and both look they're good at taking advantage of other teams' mistakes, I will say. So give me Houston to cover on the road here against Memphis. I think that'll be a good game. Akron on the road at Ohio U. Ohio U laying 23.5 at home. I watched them the other week against the Buffalo Bulls. The Bulls I've taken all week long, and Ohio U just absolutely took them to the woodshed. Winners of the MAC East. I got Akron. It's not a very good team. Akron pulled an upset against Northwestern on the road earlier in the season. Haven't been able to do a whole lot since then. I'm going to take Ohio U in this one to cover that 23.5 after what I saw them do to Buffalo. They definitely passed the eye test for me. They got a little running back, last name Olette. That guy is just, he is a beast. Reminds me of well, not just because they're built alike, but a white running back we had at South Carolina years ago named Rob DeBoer. Just tough, hard-nosed. This guy's got a beard, the whole 9 yards. So give me Ohio U in this one to cover. Nebraska on the road at Iowa. Like the way Nebraska's been playing lately, they're giving up their 10-point underdogs on the road at Iowa, which they should be. Iowa, very good team. Nebraska last week covered the spread and beat Michigan State, which I predicted. Heard it first on Carolina Jackpot. Told you that was going to happen, and it did. It was an ugly game, though. Iowa, a good defensive team, and they're okay offensively. I'm going to take the Cornhuskers in this game to cover the spread. I think they'll keep this thing close. I don't think they're going to win it, but I do think they'll keep that close against Iowa on the road. Buffalo on the road at Bowling Green. Buffalo's 14.5-point favorites on the highway. Going ahead, give me the Bulls in this one. Yeah, Bowling Green's a terrible, terrible team, and Buffalo got their wake-up call last week, and I don't think they're probably licking their wounds from that one a little bit, but I expect them to come back in fine fashion against a terrible Bowling Green team. Central Michigan on the road at Toledo. They're laying 18.5 at home against the Chippewas. Central Michigan has only won one game this year, albeit they have played a lot of really, really close games against some decent teams, such as Eastern Michigan and assorted other teams. They play Kentucky pretty close on the road at the beginning of the season. So give me Central Michigan here to cover the spread in this game. Probably won't win on the road at Toledo, but 18.5 is a lot of points. Toledo can score a lot of points, but they give up a lot of points. And that's my thing with them. I think that Central will be able to take the top off that defense and put some points on the board. Don't necessarily think they'll come out on top, but I do think they cover. Eastern Michigan, the Eagles on the road against Kent State. Eagles laying 13.5 on the highway in Kent, Ohio. Don't even need to talk about this one. Kent's a terrible football team also. Eastern Michigan, not bad at all. Another team that's had a lot of close. This is a team over the past couple of years just had a lot of close calls, close losses. But they've somewhat routed the ship on that this year. I think I learned how to win those close games. So going ahead and give me the Eagles to cover here against the Golden Flashes. Texas Longhorns on the road against Kansas. Longhorns laying 14.5 on the road at Kansas. You know, Kansas kept that game against Oklahoma fairly close this past weekend in Norman, losing 45-30. I don't really know what that was a combination of. I can tell you Oklahoma does not have a very good defense. I liked the Texas defense a little bit more than I like the Oklahoma defense, but not a lot more. That being said, I look at them and I look at Oklahoma. Both teams are they're both kind of similar. They're both going to put up a ton of points, and they're both going to outscore the opponent. Kansas is a little bit resurgent here. Head coach is gone. I got Les Miles coming in. Les is not coming in until next year, though. I think he'll do some good things there. And I think he'll turn his program into a winner. I don't think he's going to turn them into a Big 12 championship contender. I just don't think they'll be able to pull the athletes in there to compete like that. But I do expect him to turn them into a team that will, make a lower tier bowl game most years. Go on ahead here and give me Texas. I think Texas got a lot more to play for here, actually. If they win this game, they're going to be in that Big 12 championship game, of course. They're not going to make the college football playoff. Lost to Maryland. That sealed the deal on that one at the beginning of the year. However, if they put up a good showing, make that Big 12 championship game, win it, they're in a New Year's Six bowl and definitely in position to knock off a highly thought of, highly ranked team and grab some momentum going into 2018. Heading on down the docket, we have Virginia versus Virginia Tech. The Hokies the Hokies are 3.5-point underdogs at home, against Virginia. The Commonwealth Cup here, I did not know this. I should have known it, but didn't really think about it. Virginia Tech has won this game 14 straight times. 14 times in a row. That is crazy. That streak ends this Friday. Now, Virginia, give me the Cavaliers here to cover the spread in this one. Virginia Tech has actually, been a really disappointing team this year, and has actually played better on the road than they have at home. Well, except for that one road game they played against Old Dominion. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one. They've lost at home in blowout fashion to Miami, gotten blown out by Georgia Tech. They got blown out by Notre Dame, which, they actually were more competitive in the Notre Dame game than they were in the Miami or the Georgia Tech games, which is kind of odd, but a fact. Virginia been playing well this year. Kind of got caught sideways a little bit there against Georgia Tech last week. Played them really close, took that game to overtime, I believe, and lost there to the Ramblin' Wreck in Atlanta. But I'm taking Virginia here all day long. They're just a better team than Virginia Tech this year. And the 14-year streak of having the Commonwealth Cup reside in Blacksburg is over with, and it will make a return to Charlottesville this year. East Carolina on the road at Cincinnati. East Carolina, 19.5-point underdogs on the road. We know East Carolina's going to give up a lot of points. Cincinnati, here you go, another team probably going to be coming in this one a little bit angry from losing that game to UCF, which we're totally outplayed by UCF. Was just a more talented team. I actually took Cincinnati to cover in that game, and it didn't happen. But I think they'll be looking for a chance here to roll up a big win. I think they're going to put a lot of points on the scoreboard, and I think they're going to give East Carolina quite the beat down and try to solidify themselves to make at least somewhat of a decent bowl game. Oregon on the road at Oregon State, 16.5-point favorites on the road. It's not enough. Oregon State's terrible. They were showing a little bit of flashes of some improvement, I thought, earlier in the season, but it's not happening anymore. We're blown out last week by, I just forget who beat them really bad at home. It might have been Washington. At any rate, they lost. UCF on the road at South Florida. Knights still undefeated, laying 14 on the highway in Tampa against the South Florida Bulls. Last year these two played. It was an epic type deal. That game was, I can't remember if it went to overtime. I think it may have. It was just back and forth. UCF ended up winning like 48-41. one of the best college football games I'd ever seen. But, South Florida doesn't have the playmakers on this team at the helm on that one. That was Darius Tice, that was kind of a hybrid type receiver / running back / pretty much everything type players not there anymore. Their quarterback, Quentin Flowers, not there anymore. They're just not the same team that they were. Still with a good record. I think they're like 8-3 or so. But give me UCF here, covering the spread in this one. Once again, another team I think is going to look to roll up some points and beat up on somebody. Still trying to impress. I don't know is there a chance I can make a college football playoff if things went sideways with Clemson, or if Notre Dame lost, or if Ohio State beats Michigan by just a few points, and they didn't want to put Ohio State in the playoff, but I don't know. Any number of things could happen here. So I think they're looking to make a statement once again in this game, if they haven't been making statements all year. Give me the Golden Knights in that one. Oklahoma on the road at West Virginia, another Friday game. This should be a good game in Morgantown. As of this one, Oklahoma was 1.5-point favorites on the road at WV. West Virginia's coming off of a loss to Oklahoma State, where I don't think they played quite up to their potential in that one. It was a high-scoring game. Really disappointing loss for them, though. I feel like they should have won that game. A lot of mistakes made there. There is something to be said for playing at home. You have a hostile crowd and they're on your side. That can give you a little bit more of an edge than just playing at home. But Oklahoma, just to me, is a team. It just seems like they have just a little bit more big game experience than West Virginia does. And don't you think the winner of this game is going to that Big 12 championship game, and they know that Texas is beating Kansas. It's just happening. Don't you think that Oklahoma is clamoring for a shot to get back at Texas, losing that Red River Rivalry game? I think they are too. First time this year, I'm going against WV. I'm going to take the Sooners in this one to cover. Washington on the road at Wazoo, 2.5-point favorites at home. Going ahead, give me the Cougars in this one. I think they win this game by a touchdown or so. Really good season this year put together by Mike Leach's squad. Washington's somewhat of a disappointment. This is the Apple Cup, their big rivalry game there. I just don't see any way Washington State doesn't show up and doesn't play well in this game. Is this one a foregone conclusion that they win? No, it's not at all. I think this could be, a close game. And once again, talking about that, Washington's another team that has just a little bit more experience playing the bigger type games than Washington State does, as a program, just historically. But Washington State has looked really good this year. They've impressed me a lot. And I'm taking them for the cover against their rivals from Seattle. All right, getting into Saturday's games now. Finally, went through a lot of Thursday and Friday games. Friday's going to be a really, really, really good day of football. Really good day. Wish I could see all that. Georgia Tech on the road at Georgia. The Bulldogs laying 17 at home against Georgia Tech, who comes in 7-4. Georgia Tech has been really good of late. Beat Virginia last week. They beat Miami. Still not enough for them to wrap up that ACC Coastal. The loss on the road to Pittsburgh earlier in the season back in September ended up coming back to bite them in the end. So they will not win the ACC Coastal, but still could end up in a really good bowl game. And they would definitely spoil Georgia's season here. That would be a crazy scenario. If Georgia Tech beats Georgia and then gives Georgia 2 losses, and then Georgia beats Alabama, I mean, you got to think, are they still going to be in the college football playoff? I would say yes, because anybody that's knocked off Alabama and wins the SEC is going to make the college football playoff, but not likely to happen. Georgia's really playing good right now, clicking on all cylinders. They beat UMass by about 40 points last Saturday, just destroyed them. Got a lot of players in the game. You got to see a lot of Justin Fields, especially, I think he played like the entire second half. They're looking good right now. Georgia Tech, solid team defensively. We know they can run the ball, but Kentucky was another team that could run the ball, and Georgia pretty much stopped that running game. The Bulldogs, just too talented, too athletic, and just too much. Give me the Bulldogs at home to cover the 17. I think they'll win by about 3 touchdowns. I don't think they'll cover it by a lot, but they will cover it. Tennessee on the road at Vanderbilt. The Commodores laying 3.5 at home against Tennessee. Who'd have thought, 20 years ago that you'd see a time when Vanderbilt's won 4 out of the last 7 games against Tennessee. I think they had went 30 years without beating Tennessee at all. But this game, both teams come in 5-6. Whoever wins is getting a bowl. Whoever does not win, not staying at home for the holidays. Got to go here with who has impressed me more of late, and that would be Vanderbilt. Nice win at home against Ole Miss this past Saturday. Looking at common opponents, Tennessee with an impressive win at home against Kentucky. Vanderbilt, took Kentucky to the wire on the road earlier in the season when Kentucky was a little bit less, I think, beat up, and they were still Kentucky was still in mode to win the SEC East championship at the time. When Tennessee played them, that was the week after they played Georgia, and I think they were probably down in the dumps a little bit. Probably attributed to that poor performance in Knoxville. And then you look at Tennessee versus Missouri, just absolutely got handled at home, housed, boat raced, beat down, whatever you want to call it. And Vanderbilt, on the other hand, went to Missouri and lost a very, very narrow game. Vanderbilt is a good team. They, with a close loss on the road at Notre Dame. They've had some other close losses in there. A big win on the road a few weeks ago in SEC play against Arkansas. I just think that they are a more consistent team right now, and that's why I'm going to take them to cover in this one. Even my Gamecocks played them, and we won that game. I think it was, I want to say it was 37-14, something like that. I have a hard time, believing that we, handled Vanderbilt that easily, given how they played some of these other teams. So that might be one of our better wins on the season, to be honest with you. Might be the best win on the season, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Florida on the road at Florida State. The Seminoles, 5.5-point underdogs at home to the Florida Gators. Let's not save a lot of time. I'm not going to talk about Florida Gators the way I feel about this team. Absolute garbage. I don't, just the whole, I just can't. Florida State has looked good throwing the ball recently. Florida has looked pretty decent running the ball. Florida cannot throw the ball. Florida State can't run the ball, which is strange with Cam Akers and Jacquez Patrick back there in that backfield. You would think that they'd be able to move that football on the ground, but they just haven't been able to do it this year, given in part to an offensive line that is just banged up and abysmal. It was abysmal from the start. I could see this game, this is not going to be a very high-scoring game, in my opinion, which you would think kind of gives the advantage a little bit to the Gators. It's going to be tight, though. Florida State has owned Florida recently. I think they've won something like 8 of the last 9 against the Gators. It's in Tallahassee. being in Tallahassee, though, has just not been the home field advantage that it once was. Got a lot of momentum, though. They came off a good win against a decent Boston College team last Saturday. Go ahead and give me the Noles to cover here. I don't think they're going to win, but they may. Would not shock me if they do, but I think this game is going to be really close. Michigan on the road at Ohio State. Ohio State, 4-point underdogs at home to Michigan. Everybody just thinks Michigan's going to kill Ohio State. In this one, I mean, when was the last time Michigan killed Ohio State? It's been a long time. It's a road game. Ohio State didn't play well for 3 quarters against Maryland last Saturday, but they did come back in that game. They did come back. They did what they had to do to win that game. Michigan looked, like just going through the motions against the Indiana Hoosiers. This is going to be a tough one, but in the end, I look at this one, and I'm going with the upset. I'm going to pick the home team, Ohio State, here to cover. Think I'm crazy, call me nuts, but they've owned Michigan in this rivalry in the past. Ohio State is not a bad football team. I think they got some internal problems. I think they got some off-the-field issues that have attributed to some of their play on the field. But I think they come together, and I think they get this one done against Michigan. I just don't think Michigan has just not played impressive football to me the past few weeks. They just have not. Maybe they're just holding back. I don't know. Syracuse on the road at Boston College. Boston College laying 7 at home against Syracuse. I'm going ahead and taking the orange in this one. Both teams banged up quarterbacks. Eric Dungy, that one left the game against Syracuse or against Notre Dame last weekend. I don't know what his status is right now at this point in time. But, just looking at these teams on paper and the eye test from what I've seen, Syracuse just looks more impressive to me than Boston College. They're definitely more explosive. We saw, Florida State with some explosive plays against Boston College this past weekend. I don't think that BC's style is made to keep up with Syracuse, especially if they get behind in this one. Take Syracuse to cover in this one and win that game. And quite honestly, that's one of the no-brainer picks of the week for me. All right, last set here. Western Kentucky on the road at Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech laying 11 at home against Western Kentucky. I'm going to go ahead and take the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs here. They've looked decent this year. And I had a few close losses. Give me them over Western Kentucky all day long, twice on Sunday. You can tell I don't know a lot about those two. Navy on the road at Tulane. Tulane laying 7 at home against Navy. Navy's another team that hadn't looked good at all this year. Tulane has looked good in spurts. I actually picked them to cover that game against, Houston a few weeks ago on the road. They absolutely got drilled on the road by the Cougars. This Navy team, not one of the better ones that Ken Niumatalolo has put on the field in his tenure there. Probably the worst, to be honest with you. They're going to play Army. They're going to get absolutely stomped in a few weeks. Give me the Green Wave covering that one at home. Baylor on the road at Texas Tech. Texas Tech 6.5-point favorites at home. Go ahead and give me the Red Raiders covering this one. Baylor has not looked good the past few weeks either. Marshall on the road at FIU. FIU just a few losses this year, close loss in a couple of games there. Marshall, another team that's looked pretty good. They're 2.5-point favorites here. Going ahead and give me the Marshall Thundering Herd to cover that 2.5-point spread against FIU. Purdue on the road at Indiana. This one's for the old Oaken Bucket. Purdue laying 4 on the highway against the Hoosiers. Hoosiers are a team that plays everybody tough, plays everybody close. Close games against Penn State, close game against Michigan. I say close, I mean relatively close, within striking distance, against some teams that are a lot better than the Hoosiers. But go ahead and give me Purdue to cover in this one. They've played some impressive football this year. They may not have won a lot of the games that I thought that they would win. I thought for a while this team was going to win that Western division of the Big Ten there, but it didn't happen. Looked great against Ohio State. Looked impressive a couple other times this year. Going ahead, give me Purdue in this one to cover against Indiana and take the old Oaken bucket back home to, I don't know what the Boilermakers do with that. NC State on the road at UNC. UNC laying as a 7-point underdog at home against NC State. NC State last week just beat up on a terrible Louisville team. It's not NC State looked pretty decent this year. In most games, they put up a lot of points. Didn't look good against Clemson, but a lot of teams have not. 7 points. This is a rivalry game. UNC has played a bit better. I think they've only won 2 games so far this year. This line just still looks a little bit short to me. Give me the Wolfpack to cover here. I think they'll win by about 10. I think they'll cover not by a huge margin, but I think they do take the victory against their rivals from Chapel Hill. Wake Forest on the road at Duke. Duke is 12.5-point favorites against the Demon Deacons. Wake's played better recently. They had that win against NC State, a little upset a few weeks ago. They're on the road at Duke. Duke just came off a game against Clemson. They're a little bit banged up. Sure. Duke still, I think, is the better team. So go on ahead here. Give me the Blue Devils, cover 12.5 against Wake Forest. Old Dominion at Rice. Old DU is 8 points favorite to take down the Rice Owls in Houston. Rice, another team, just a terrible football team. They did cover for me last week against LSU on the road. They got Old Dominion at home. Old Dominion, the up-and-coming program in Conference USA. Of course, earlier in the season, beat Virginia Tech. They got a decent win last week against, I can't remember, it may have been UTEP that I was looking at that they beat last week. Going ahead, give me the Monarchs to cover the spread in Houston against the Rice Owls. New Mexico State at Liberty. I couldn't find the line on this game. On CBSSports.com, which is where I take my lines from. And normally I go over to the Vegas site and find them when I can't, which is what I had to do with that Arkansas-Missouri game. It wasn't listed on CBS Sports for some reason. This one I have no clue here. I do know that Liberty can move the ball. New Mexico State is a team that kind of runs an option-style offense. And Liberty's got some decent wins this year. Most notably, which they knocked off another team we'll talk about here in a minute, the Troy Trojans. So just going ahead and give me Liberty to win this game straight out. I don't really know what the line is on that one there. I would imagine they would be favored, though. Georgia Southern on the road at Georgia State. The Eagles laying 11 in Atlanta at the former Turner Field. Georgia Southern's looked good this year. Looked real good running that option. I don't know if you've actually watched them play, but their quarterback, Shea Wertz, extremely fast-moving athlete. 11 points here. Just not enough points in this one. Go on ahead, give me Georgia Southern to cover on the road against the Panthers and take the victory there. And we have Troy on the road at App State. App State laying 10.5 at home against Troy. Both teams, pretty solid season so far. App State started to click a little bit more so recently. Troy, like I said before, the unexplainable loss to Liberty. App State's at home. They're always tough there. 10.5 points. I don't think it's enough. Going ahead, giving the Mountaineers to cover in that one. All right, guys. Well, that is the end of part 1 of Carolina Jackpot's picks and predictions, doing every game on the board. We will do another video, which we'll see tomorrow, where I will be covering some of the other rivalry games, most notably of which Iron Bowl, Auburn, Alabama. You have my South Carolina Gamecocks going on the road against Clemson. Can they shock the world? Kentucky, Louisville. San Jose State, Fresno, always a barn burner. Notre Dame on the road against USC Junior. Utah State, Boise State. I think should be a close game. We'll predict these games and all of them as we always do. That's it, guys. Carolina Jackpots. We'll get out of here. I hope that each and every one of you who watches these videos and gives a thumbs up, all the subs, everyone who's helped make this channel what it is, that comes and watches these every week, dedicated. I hope you all have a great day tomorrow with your families. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. If you're not able to spend Thanksgiving with your family, I hope you're able to spend it with your friends, your loved ones. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. I will see you later on, guys. Peace, and I'm out. Go Gamecocks, and go Coach Boom.